I realized when I left Klang for college that people think being from Klang is really funny because they think it's really far away. So even though it's really an hour from the city. So my friends used to tease me, they used to ask me, oh, did you have to take a boat to get here? Or if you had to get your passport stamped to get out here. So as you can imagine, I was quite embarrassed to tell people where I was from. And being embarrassed about where I'm from is something that I was familiar with because I think like many of you, I grew up watching TV. I watched a lot of American movies and read books written by British writers, and I identified a lot with the Western culture, the Western world, and not so much with my own Chinese culture. So my family is not very traditional, but we did do some traditional things. We used to burn paper money, and back then I was an angry teenager. I would say, well, so stupid, you're burning money and you're polluting the environment. So, but I never really understood why we did it. When I started getting involved in the Indigenous rights movement, being proud of your culture and traditions and where you come from are some of the core values. And then I started to feel even more embarrassed because not only did I not really understand my own, I was quite ashamed of my own roots at that time. I thought then that I was trying to learn about another culture, the indigenous culture, but it turned out to become an ongoing lesson on understanding my own cultural identity. I started working with the Indigenous rights movement when I did my internship with the Center for Orang Asli Concerns. And back then, all I knew about the Indigenous people was that they're living in the forest and they needed our help, not knowing then that perhaps it is us or myself who might be needing the help. Now, the Indigenous people's identity is linked to the land because they depend on it for resources. Whether it is through cultivation, such as planting rice, or going to the forest to look for resources. Do you guys know what this is? Yes, a wild boar, Hakuna Matata. So the forest not only provides the Indigenous people with food, but it provides them resources such as to build their homes, such as these palm leaves, which will be dried and later used as roofing for the house. And if you live in the forest and if you fall sick, the nearest hospital is going to be really, really far away. In East Malaysia, it is literally a helicopter ride away. So thankfully, the Indigenous people have lived in the forest for thousands and thousands of years. So they can basically find a cure for most illnesses from the forest. For example, this bezoar stone, which is found in the stomach of a porcupine. Now, the bezoar stone is consumed for overall health, and some say it can cure cancer. And not every porcupine would have a stone in their stomach because it is really like a deformity. So it's really hard to find a porcupine with a stone in its stomach. The guy who found it told me that he dreamt that he went hunting and he found it. And true enough, the next day, when he went hunting, he found the prized bezoar stone. Being part of a community is very important to the Indigenous people because when you depend on the forest for food, you need to work together to ensure food security. One of the first villages I went to was to visit a Semai community. And back then, I tried to be very courteous. So whenever someone gave me food, I would say, oh, thank you. Whenever someone helped me with my bags, I'll say, thank you so much. But when I did the same to others, no one ever thanked me. So I wasn't offended, but I thought it was really weird. My mentor later explained to me that the reason why is because for the Semai community, when you do something for someone, you do not expect anything in return, whether it is gratitude or a favor in return. You do it because it is your responsibility to ensure the well-being of everyone within your community. So that sense of community is further strengthened socially with song and dance, and in some places over rice wine, which is great. I think some of you, for us, it could be like a Friday night out with your friends over drinks, except here you probably don't have to drive home. Many signifiers of what we would identify with the indigenous culture, such as their craft, is all inherently linked to nature, whether it is within the designs of the crafts or the sound which their musical instruments make. And because of their close relationship to the forest, many global organizations have recognized their importance because they who depend on the forest know best how to take care of it. So organizations such as the United Nations regard them as stewards of the forest. Now, there were many times when I was immersed in the richness and diversity of culture that I felt a sense of loss, a loss of my own cultural identity. Am I just part of this urban, mainstream, homogenized society that drinks Starbucks and watch 12 seasons of American Idol? Not that there's anything wrong with it, but you know what I mean. I sort of don't have any connection back to my own cultural roots. And I wonder as well if the indigenous people are headed the same way. One of the biggest problems faced by the indigenous people is that of land rights. So governments and large corporations take away their land without their free, prior, and informed consent. A lot of development policies are designed not with the indigenous people's best interest in mind, but really to assimilate them into mainstream society. For us, this may just look like a locked over area, but for the indigenous people, they lost everything. They lost their homes, their food, their spirituality, their graves, everything. The most pessimistic of people would say that the indigenous culture and traditions are doomed to go moldy because large corporations and governments will always win. I think we're all really used to hearing sad news about the indigenous people. They're losing their land, they're living in poverty, school children are getting raped on their way to school. But having been involved in the movement, I find very little to be sad about, but more to feel inspired by. The indigenous movement helped me find my own cultural identity, because when I stopped thinking of myself as an individual and as part of a community, I realized that I never truly lost anything at all, because it lives on in others around me. And I, for one, admire the indigenous movement, especially in Malaysia, for their ability to adapt to change while maintaining a strong sense of their cultural integrity. And the indigenous people are exercising their self-determination through peaceful protests, such as the Orang Asli from Kelantan, where they've set up blockades to stop encroachers from entering and taking away their ancestral land. There are indigenous forest-dependent youths in Sabah who are documenting their community's effort in collaborative management of a protected area. And there are several micro-hydro projects across Malaysia, community-based micro-hydro projects. So this is not a mega dam, where a large area is inundated and thousands of people are relocated. What a micro-hydro dam is, basically a small stream is dammed, and that small dam will generate enough electricity to power an entire village. And the best part about it is that it is built and managed entirely by the community. Now, when I say a whole village in the forest gets electricity, what you might imagine is, oh, that's great because now kids don't have to study under the kerosene lamp, they have a light bulb, they can study under the light. But in this day and age, that is not the case. Indigenous youths are charging their handphones, they're charging their laptops, they're getting online, and they're advocating their rights using Facebook and voicing their concerns. I think if we look back in our ancestry, not too many generations ago, our great-great-grandparents were probably once dependent on the land as well, or indigenous to a certain area. Supporting the indigenous movement to me is not supporting another group of people, but really it's supporting all of us moving forward as a civilization, but just at different stages. And as the Semai community would put it, it is our responsibility to ensure the well-being of everyone as we move forward. And if not out of respect for one another, supporting the indigenous rights movement could be the key to protecting the last of the forested area we have in this world. The indigenous rights movement inspires me because it has taught me it is okay to be different and to stand up for it. It taught me to take pride in where I'm from, Klang, and it's taught me that we are all in this together. Thank you.